This is Migaloo working in Dayton, Tennessee. Right now our main control is working on stop. So you're going to see me back and forth trying to get him, essentially to block him and not have his sheep until he stops. I accidentally forgot to push play, so my friend did it for me. So we missed the first probably 30 seconds of this run. But sorry, that's off screen. Didn't have a wide enough camera to catch it. But you're noticing he is kind of skirting back and forth. There, he stopped. So now I'm going to allow him to have his sheep, but he's got to go the way that I allow him to go. And he overall is understanding the concept of the sandwich, and he's relaxing his gait a little bit, but I'm still going to need more distance. So notice how I pushed him out into doing a more than square flank, and we're trying to keep him switching in movement and then flipping that up with a stop. I still have a sandwich, but he's still way too close. And if the sheep get any lighter, we're going to start having major problems. So this was me trying to get him no sheep until you stop. And we're going to slowly move away from them. Technically, I want him to kind of turn tail and go all the way to the back. There we go. Stop. Pressure off. Good boy. Now I want him to come to me, because he was a good boy. And now he's got to walk next to me until we get out a little bit more. And this is another part of the assignment, or the things that we work on, aside from stopping, is just because you move away from the sheep and come out with me doesn't mean you're done. So there, he didn't quite understand the flank that I wanted him to take, because I had been pushing him and messing with him. So now he's sniffing poop a little bit, and I've got to block him to make sure he goes that direction and pick the sheep up. So that means I back away. That looks pretty nice overall. He's still really too close. I'm going to need him to be pretty much completely across the pen by the time this is said and done. But there, he kind of gave me a nice square flank, and he stopped. So I'm assuming I'm not letting him have his sheep until he goes around, or until he stops. And then he comes around, tucks him in behind me. Pretty good gather. There, he's starting to rate himself a little bit better. And then I want him to come this way, so I kind of pulled him out away from the sheep. So I'm going to want him to go in an away direction. He's still really tight on the back end, and he needs to be able to go all the way to the rail to scoop them up without riding their butts around the ring. He did a good job tucking that one back in. And I'm kind of doing little figure eights to continue to encourage him to almost overflank a little bit. But you see how he went in there to ride the butt and didn't get behind the whole group the first time? So I need to keep pushing to make sure he understands you bring them all to me. So this was me screwing up because I wanted him to actually come around the other way, and I let the pressure off of him and I was putting the pressure too far back on his body. And there I had to kind of push him out a little more, and he was able to get the stock back. So that was my fault for not being in the correct position. And he kind of made a mess that I allowed him to clean up after. And we're working on stopping again. So he's kind of flanking back and forth, kind of let me at him, let me at him. And he needs to be back off and away from the stock. And I assume he stopped there because I allowed him to go around on an away flank to pick the group up. But you see how close he is to splitting them up? He's doing a good job, but he's got to be further out because anything will take advantage of that close distance, and he'll start running. And I switched directions on him. He covered well. Good overflank, tucking him in. Still way too close. I need to ask him for more. There we go. That's starting to get a little better. Good sheep sandwich. Good boy. So this is a lot of figure eights and trying to get him to kind of overflank a little bit and understand that his job is to keep them with me. Anytime he tries to pass the knees, I'm going to have to get him to stop, or I'm going to have to push him out, which is what we're working on right now. No sheep until you stop. Good boy. Good boy. And now this is me stopping him and trying to get him to walk into me. And that's a good boy. So now I can, working, just because you come to me doesn't mean you're done. So I allow him to go back around to bring the sheep to me again. So they've passed me, which means that he's pushing too hard. And I need him to stop and kind of get out a little bit. So I'm not letting him have his sheep here until he gives to the pressure and he stops and starts backing. And well, I want him to back off, but he's not quite there yet. He wants his sheep. No sheep until you stop. I can do this all day. No sheep until you stop. I can do this all day. No sheep until you stop. No sheep until you stop. And when I take the pressure off and the paddle goes back into neutral, no sheep until you stop. He's got to hold that stop position until I tell him to go. So he gave me what I was looking for, so I sent him around. Sometimes I really need to hold him to higher standards, but sometimes you kind of let some of that stuff go because he's at least giving pressure. And you see that was a nice square flank around the back side. And I wanted him to go on that come by. Oh, I changed my mind and sent him on away. I shouldn't do that. And then he backed off real nice right there when I told him, you are too close. You pushed him past me too fast. So right there, he's got to check up on his brakes, and he did. All right, good. Stop, and now he's got to walk to me. And then I give him and say, a good boy, put his leash back on, and so that'll do.